Hey everyone, Arthur Fantastic here at NOGI MMA in Ocala, head coach Jag, aka Josh, and we are with Mr. John Potenza, the Catch Cowboy, multiple karate black belts, multiple lineages of catch wrestling, but we are always in paying homage to Billy Robinson here on this channel, and we have many questions for you today. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Having a good time.
All right, yeah, me too. My freaking hips all messed up. One of the questions I actually want to ask you is that now we're talking about Catch Cowboy. It's really caught on. Have you thought about like cross promoting, like a rodeo, rough and tumble catch wrestling American type thing?
It's not a bad idea. It's been joked about. We've talked about it jokingly. A couple of guys are kind of messing around with it. I wouldn't say it's out of the realm of possibility somewhere down the road. We'll see how it all plays out. It would be pretty cool to have like maybe an old school catch wrestling match at a rodeo as an intermission type of thing or something along those lines. That'd be pretty awesome. So
That'd be so
it's not
sick.
out of the realm of possibilities. It's not on the paper just yet as planned, but we'll see how it goes.
I think it's a good time right now. I think Dana White has like bull that he owns, right?
Yeah,
Twisted
Seal.
Seal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and people are like talking about it. Oh, scary.
That's a bad bull.
Scary.
Man.
I think Donald Cerrone wanted to ride it.
He was supposed to ride it. I believe he tore his bicep preparing for it. He was training for it. Man, that might have been a good thing. That's a mean bull, man.
This is better than riding that guy.
Yeah.
He's thinking about, speaking of Donald Cerrone, he's thinking about going back into MMA. What do you think about that?
I think it's awesome. He's an absolute fucking warrior, man. He's incredible. So, you know, it's always cool to see those legends come back, but there's always that double-edged sword, right? You know, we kind of have to know as fighters where our time to pass the torch is. You know, it's nice to go out on top. It's always good to go out when you're still a legend and all that. So sometimes when guys come back after a layoff and they're getting older, it gets a little tough. So it's a double-edged sword, but you know, I'm a big fan of his, so I'd love to see him back fighting again. And the guy's just a beast, so it'd be cool to see.
I think the match to make is like Donald Cerrone versus like, I think he would bring it back Nate Diaz or something like that. They were talking
That'd be
about
cool.
something. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be an amazing match for sure.
Moving on past UFC. I mean, obviously we're all interested in the old MMA game.
Right.
What is going on right now in the catch world that you feel like is something that you want to zero in on and bring to the forefront?
I think a couple of big things. One is the tournament circuit's starting to pick up, which is awesome. I think that's tremendous. I'm a big advocate for getting guys out there and learning and training and applying. Right, you have to have all aspects of it, and it's cool to see. There's a lot of smaller groups, different groups or different organizations are starting to run tournaments, and you see more and more of it. And I'm really excited about that because that's what's going to help catch grow. Is this progression. The other big thing is unity or lack thereof. I talk about this a lot, and this is a big problem in catch wrestling and all grappling arts, all martial arts for that reason, for that aspect. There's always bickering and infighting in every style of martial arts out there. Everybody's, this organization doesn't like that organization, and you guys fight by different rules than we do, and we don't like this, we don't like that. So it's unfortunate that's translating into catch.
Sharks.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's kind of carrying over to catch now, which is tough because we're a very small group. And being a small group, when you have guys, kind of bickering and infighting, it kind of makes it more fragmented, and it makes it harder to promote catch as a style. So we need more unity, more people working together and supporting each other and backing each other. I'm not saying everybody's got to train the same stuff over and over again. Everybody's got to, be in each other's groups all the time, but at least support it. You know what I mean? Like if somebody from another group is having a tournament, I'm going to push it and say, hey man, these guys are doing a tournament, get out there and compete. It has nothing to do with my organization, but that doesn't mean shit. It's part of the style. And if guys are having seminars, I'll talk to people all the time. They say, hey, there's a seminar out here in this, but it's not under your group. I'm like, I don't care, man. Go out and train. Go learn from these guys. It's catch is catch. Go learn from whoever's out there and make yourself better at catch wrestling and preserve the style and the sport of catch. So to get back to your original question, pushing forward for more people training, teaching, and learning catch wrestling, and the tournament scene is really a big thing right now. It's cool to see that build up coming.
I agree. One of the things that I wished I would see more of is the tournaments that are running. I wish they would upload or maybe even live stream their tournaments. Karate Combat, we've talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Karate Combat does all their events live. They're free, and that was one of those like, I can watch these live. They're also free, so I'm not paying $80 for a UFC.
Yeah.
And it just makes it so much more accessible for everyone.
Absolutely.
It's already one of those niche sports that is growing, and it's been around forever. It's the basis for most of all the other grappling arts that have competition right now. But adding that paywall, I feel, is adding another obstacle for people to get their eyes on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that 100%, man. And if it's televised or live streamed or whatever it is, and people could see it and get access to it, I think that would gain a lot more interest a lot faster. Because when you watch a catch wrestling match, it's so exciting. It's such a fast moving, just an adrenaline watching it. You're like, man, this is awesome. And I think if there was more free live streaming, I understand promoters have to make money. I get that part of it. It's business. You have to pay for the promotion. But at the moment, I think sometimes putting stuff out there and making it free and accessible will bring more people in down the road. And then you could offer maybe the first couple of matches free, and maybe do a special main events could be on a pay-per-view or something like that. Split it up. It'd be a great way to balance it out. That way the promoters can still make money. Yeah.
Armageddon.
That's it. Exactly. That's it. That's your balance, right? So, but I think putting it in front of people and letting people see it will be the big difference, because so many people are just intimidated by catch just from hearsay.
Right.
Oh, catch is dangerous. Those guys do all this brutal stuff. Yeah, neck cranking and heel hooking and toe holding, which we do, but it's done in a controlled manner. And when people see matches and they see guys getting after it live and really getting down nitty gritty and no one's getting hurt, then it's like, oh, all right, this isn't as bad and as dangerous as people think it is. It's conceived to be this brutal, violent, break everything art, which it kind of is, but it's controlled.
Right.
That's the part that's overlooked, is the controlled part of it. So I think that would be a really good thing to have that access where people could see it, or at least even if they don't live stream, put it up on YouTube later.
Yes,
give some kind of access to it, and it really help a lot.
When we're talking about that, in fact, you were saying that it's an exciting match. It not only is exciting, like, you may not know every little technique or that's going on, but the overall construct of what's happening, no one's sitting to their butt and they're like, but they're still winning.
Right.
No, it's like people are going for it, and you may not be sure exactly what everything, but you basically know what's going on.
Yeah.
While we're talking about streaming, while we're talking about posting these videos online, Flow Grappling's kind of got a bit of a monopoly on wrestling right now. That is amateur wrestling, or as I say, amateur catch as catch.
There you go.
Wrestling, because folk style, collegiate, that's originally catch wrestling, but removed the submissions and some of the holds. First off, what do you think about basically all scholastic wrestling being on only Flow Grappling?
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes back to that. I think access is key. The more people get exposed to stuff, the more they'll gain interest in it. A lot of people don't even know they're interested in this kind of stuff because they don't see it. It's not in front of them. So if they don't see it, they kind of disregard it and they're like, oh, it's kind of whatever. I'm not interested in that. But when you see it, if it was out there exposed more and there was more avenues to find this stuff, then it becomes more people watch it, more people see it, and they say, oh man, you know what? That's a lot cooler than I thought it was. That looks like a lot more fun. And that's how you grow everything. So yeah, when things get kind of monopolized, it's tough because that niche group is all that's getting access to it, and then the rest of the world is just kind of like, I just kind of heard, I didn't like that, but I don't really know.
I mean, I exactly agree with that. And in addition, because they're controlling it the way that they're controlling it, a lot of the growth is stunted.
Absolutely.
We see a lot of modern sports growth through, obviously, attendance, which is not very high at jiu-jitsu matches or wrestling matches.
Right.
It could be more. There was the pay of the actual grapplers. Not a lot of people, like wrestlers, are we getting paid? No, like in a high school, college, no, not at all. And then BJJ, pretty much the same. Like, maybe if you win a tournament, maybe you get some money. Maybe you'll get your entrance back.
Right.
So we're paying to enter these wrestling. We're paying to enter these BJJ tournaments. But meanwhile, other sports have these already created structures for them to compete and get paid and be sponsored, et cetera, et cetera. But if it's grappling, it's just on Flow Grappling. Maybe if you're on a pro card, you get paid.
Right.
Something. And I think that's an issue to be discussed. By the whole grappling community as a general. You're a wrestler, you do good, and you want to make a brand for yourself, you want to make wrestling your life. It ain't going to be competing, making money. You know what I mean? Maybe teaching, maybe if you're the top 1% of athlete and you got a crazy amount of sponsors, or you go to MMA.
Right.
Those are your options. And I think that, we were talking about last time in our interview, CGI and organizations like that are going to make it more of a professional pursuit for the athlete. So while we're talking about that, I think another way to get eyes on the sport is grabbing known names, because I think there's a lot of MMA fighters that are catch wrestlers. Catch wrestlers, I feel like more likely go to MMA than they go to grappling.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
What are some MMA fighters that you have trained or you know of in MMA that you would think would make a good impact on the catch wrestling grapplings?
I don't see anybody who's high level in catch wrestling is going to make a huge impact.
Yes.
Because it's such a different look. So regardless of how big or small their names are, if they're a decent catch wrestler and they get out there, it looks totally different than the standard MMA guy or grappler of any kind. And so, yeah, really, I mean, I've trained tons of guys over the years of just, people that nobody knows, that just local guys that are amazing catch wrestlers. And they get on the MMA scene and they start tearing it up, and they're like, guys like, wow, those guys move different. It's that catch base, and again, it brings that excitement of this whole different look to it. So, but you've got guys like, obviously, Josh Barnett and Sakuraba, the original legends of our time.
And I want to train with Sakuraba.
Oh, he's amazing.
Josh Barnett, friend of the channel. Check out the interview on this channel.
There you go. Right on.
Who else?
There's a laundry list of guys throughout the years that are producing guys. So now Josh is putting guys out. Eric Paulson always has guys. Yeah, Victor Henry and those guys.
Oh, Eric Paulson.
Eric Paulson's got a pile of guys. All his catch wrestlers come out of his gym. Those guys are killing it and crushing it. So it's not always just the fighter itself. It's the coaches that coming out from under. So there's a lot of guys out there. People don't know the names yet, but they're coming from catch coaches and they're just dominating. They're making a big wave in the fight scene, which is awesome. And you're starting to see that different look when guys get out there and they're not just complacent with holding a position. They're just constantly grinding and fighting. You've seen a lot of that with the guys out of Dagestan and those guys.
Yes.
They're just animals, man. They're coming out super aggressive, and that's that same catch mentality of fight for the win. Don't just fight not to lose, right? Just get out there and get after it. So I think anybody who comes out of a legit catch gym, you're starting to see these guys finally starting to trickle into MMA. It'll be a while before we have a new wave of guys coming to the higher level of MMA, but we're getting there. We're on the way there. So once these guys start making it to the big leagues, that's when you're going to start to see the difference. There's a new generation coming up, and they're ready to fight. Bringing catch out there to the MMA scene.
In terms of while we're talking about the grappling and catch wrestling scene, what do you think is the largest delineation? What delineates the BJJ grappling set from the catch wrestling set? Because I know that I have fans on here. The channel has viewers. I don't know if they're fans of me, but the channel has viewers, and they're asking, what's the difference between the catch competition and the BJJ competition?
So the biggest thing is rule set. It's always the big thing, but the number one thing is the pin. That's what changes everything. The pin changes the entire game. Obviously the leg locks and neck cranks and all that kind of stuff. That's a big thing, but that's open in a lot of grappling tournaments and expert level, advanced levels. You're able to do a lot of that stuff, so that's kind of not so foreign. But the pin is the biggest separation, because now everything changes. You can't be complacent on your back. If you're on your back, a shoulder blade has to be up. If you're on your back, you got to be moving fast. You can't just hang out and wait to set somebody up, wait for them to try and pass your body scissors and set them up. It has to be constantly active from the bottom. So that's like the biggest thing. And I think that deters a lot of grapplers, because they're not used to pins. If they didn't come from a wrestling background or a catch wrestling gym, and they're doing just judo or jiu-jitsu, they're not really comfortable with that 3-second pin, that quick 1, 2, boom, you're done. So unfortunately, it deters some people, but on the other hand, it's starting to attract people too, because it's different. It's something new. So guys are getting like, all right, I'm pretty good at this. Let me try my hat in something different. And I think that's important. I think grapplers as a whole, all grapplers I just talked about this recently on a different podcast, and we were talking about how they should fight out of their comfort zone. Everybody should. So if you're a catch wrestler, go to a jiu-jitsu tournament, follow their rule set and try it, test it out and see if you can do it under limited rules for your style. If you're a jiu-jitsu guy, fight in a catch wrestling tournament. If you do both of those things, go compete in Greco or freestyle or folk style or judo. Constantly put yourself in bad positions and uncomfortable positions to learn all these different ways of fighting, and it makes an overall better grappler. You still stay true to your style, but you should still compete where you're not comfortable.
I agree. I 100% agree, especially with the mixing of different martial arts. Like, I love Bloodsport, the movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme, all the martial arts fighting one another. And then, I imagine, the martial artists coming out of that tournament knowing all those different things, and now they're, a more full martial artist.
Right.
And I feel like that's something that we should all be doing as martial artists trying to become better at combat.
Yeah.
As opposed to a specific sport. Another thing that you were saying, it's more exciting, a catch wrestling match. I think one way to describe it, it's more athletic because you can't be pinned. So you can go in jiu-jitsu, in jiu-jitsu, you lay it down, grab, break a posture. But in catch wrestling, there's a crossface coming in any second, right in there, and you got to get the hell up and out of there.
That's it.
And I think that when we see the high-level CJI matches, or even ADC, where they're really going at it head-to-head for the takedown, I think that is way more exciting than someone sitting down.
Definitely, 100%.
While we're here, and before we move on to the next subject, you're a black belt in judo, right?
Yeah.
That's going to be the next subject. While we're on this subject, I had a commenter actually have a specific question for you on your last interview.
Okay.
So I thought I'd ask you now, while on this subject, they were asking, what's the difference between learning catch wrestling online and learning catch wrestling in person? I would say pain.
Yeah, the feel, man, definitely the feel. I mean, catch hurts, right? I say it all the time. That's kind of one of my things. Catch hurts, man. It's a painful thing. But the body conditioning is the biggest part that you miss. I mean, for sure. When you learn online, and I'm all for it. If you don't have access to a gym, online is the next best thing. But that's all it is the next best thing. It's not. It'll never replace one-on-one training with somebody. When you get to actually go hands-on, it's a whole different thing. The biggest things is there's so many small details in catch, and all grappling for that matter, but especially in catch, there's so many small little details that if you don't physically feel them or have somebody to point them out right in front of you, it makes it difficult. I train people all over the world online. I've got a bunch of online people, and that's all I do is online training, and they don't have access to a gym. Some of them only train with grappling dummies or whoever they can get for their partner for the day. But they go out and compete and they win, and they're still applying this stuff really well. And then eventually down the road, I finally get to train with them in person, and I get to fine tune these little details, and I see everything change immediately because I'm able to make these slight adjustments that, from doing live stream videos with them and stuff, they can't get physically that little extra bit, and all of a sudden it clicks and makes sense. So that hands-on training really makes things puts more into perspective, so you can feel where things are. Because if I do a top wrist lock and I twist your wrist, and you're just looking at it from the video, and you're like, all right, well, he's doing this, and he's working, this looks like his arm's like that. It's uncomfortable. When I grab your wrist and I twist it like this and finish it, then you're like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. That's a lot more pain and pressure. And the same with cross faces or whatever you're going to do. You put that extra pressure and they feel it, then they can really understand and appreciate it, plus the body conditioning that comes with it.
Yes, getting tougher because you're getting beat up.
Yeah, you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
I know I had another catch wrestling question, but I'll have to come back to it because I don't remember at the moment. Let's switch lanes for a moment. There are some developments going on in. Actually, I do remember it now. We're seeing a lot of crossover now, grappling teachers and athletes. You got Owen Livesey. You got I don't know if you know about Justin Flores. J. Flores.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Division I wrestler. I didn't even know. He's just so into the judo. I'm like, oh wow, his wrestling is also really good. That I think is also something that needs to be, as you were saying, get out of your comfort zone, but needs to be explored. Where karate guys want to do karate and Muay Thai guys want to do Muay Thai, but there is application of wrestling, judo, and jiu-jitsu. There's guys that are like, oh, there's only jiu-jitsu. And so that kind of brought me to this next question. I'm making a response video to another YouTube content creator, and he was asking, he keeps asking, what's so important about the takedown? Why should we be forced to go and wrestle each other? Why can't I just get down to the ground? I mean, that's what we're trying to do, get to the ground and grapple. What is the significance of a takedown?
Establishing dominant position. That's what it is. It's, if you both sit down and pull guard and whatever, and that's your rule set, and that's you're scissoring, it's whatever. I mean, it is what it is. It's you get into the ground, but at what cost? I'm walking into your guard, or I'm walking into your butterfly, or whatever you're setting up. If we're fighting from stand up and we're fighting for dominant position, that throw is going to determine who has the better throw, lands in dominant position. Rather than you sitting down and me have to kind of run in and dive on top of you because the referee's yelling at me because I'm the one standing up.
Engage him.
Yeah, you got to engage. I'm like, make him stand up. Bro. Why do I got to engage?
He just disengaged.
Yeah, right. I want to engage. Get him to stand up when you do that. So yeah, the throw is everything. The takedown's it's the whole thing. The fact that you can throw your opponent, land dominant position, possibly cause some damage points. Get a little bit of that wind knocked out of them, that impact, that grind. Now you've dictated the pace of the fight. Now you've set up. All right, now I'm the aggressor. I'm on top. I've got the landing. I've got the pressure. I've got everything in my favor to start this fight. Now the fight is ready to go. So in my opinion, the takedown is the most important part.
I agree.
We're ground fighters, but you have to be able to get to the ground effectively. If you sit down and I don't, then what do you do? If you don't know how to take takedowns, what are you going to do? You have to stand back up, at some point, and if it's a real fight anyway.
Right. I was going to say, if we're training for combat, if it's a real fight, you're not sitting down.
You're not going to sit down. It's not feasible. You're going to get kicked in the face, or you're going to get stomped on. It's not going to go good. So if you're combative, if you're doing sport, jiu-jitsu, or sport, whatever, and that's your game, so be it. But for me, for looking at it from a combative perspective, I think that takedown's so important, man. You need that takedown. You need that top control. You need to get dominant position established right out of the gate.
I agree, and I think and once again, I always say this in my videos. We discussed it in the last video. I'm not talking about sumigeshi, tominagi, pulling someone into immediately sweeping.
Right.
Rather, sitting down on your butt and letting go, and then telling them, "Hey, get in my guard." You know what I mean, like the meme,
right.
Which is ridiculous. Talking about judo, talking about catch wrestling. Talking about Eric Paulson, Cade Rotullo, Ty Rotullo, brag that they never ever pulled guard ever in training, and they're also training under Eric Paulson.
Yeah,
that's
which is amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Yeah,
and you've got this the same guy commenter. He was saying that we didn't get to see this beautiful jiu-jitsu when Hafa and Cobrinha were wrestling at ADCC because they didn't want to give up the point. Not only didn't want to give up the point, they didn't want to give up top position. They trust their jiu-jitsu. They can sweep, but they want the top position.
Yep.
And you can beg the question all you want. If you just look and ask them, they're I don't want to be on bottom. I respect that other person's game. I want to dictate the pace.
Right.
And that brings us to switching over to judo. You're a judo black belt.
Yep.
There are some things that are developing right now in judo, the judo world, AJP, the Kodokan, allowing some leg grabs.
Yeah.
International Japanese judo is now also allowing, under certain circumstances, in the middle of transition, grabbing the leg.
Right.
What are your thoughts on them bringing back the leg grabs? What are your thoughts on them taking the leg grabs?
It's kind of crazy. I have a funny story for you.
Okay, yes.
I know you love the stories.
Yes, please.
So back in the day, back at my school in New Jersey, we had a killer judo team, and I was one of the smallest guys, which is crazy. I was 240 at the time, and I was a little guy on the team.
240.
They were animals, right? So my judo team was a bunch of monsters, and even the guys who were shorter than me were just jacked up and bigger, and it was just a bunch of animals. And we had one guy, Ethan. He was a stud wrestler, man. Dude's been wrestling since he's like 2 years old. He's in his 30s. At the time, he was in his 30s, and he started doing judo. He was white belt, right? Started up as white belt. But he was a phenomenal wrestler. Dude was a stud wrestler. And we started going to judo tournaments, and he'd go and compete in these tournaments with us. And as a white belt, he would just mop everybody up. So we were like, well, you can't go in white belt. He's double-legging everybody, firing, carrying dudes. Just blast doubles across the mat. And that was when leg attacks were still in. So we could do everything. And he was single and double-leg everybody, and just everybody. So we had to keep promoting him because I was like, it was embarrassing. Like, we can't have this white belt beating these high-level guys. Then he started going to black belt division, so we had to give him different colored belts. He was just smoking black belts, and people were all pissed off because he was just wrestling them. He was out wrestling them. He was that good, and he was beating high-level, national-level guys, which was incredible because his wrestling was so good. And I kind of feel like he was one of them guys. There's a million guys like him out there, and I think he was one that contributed to that. We need to take the leg attacks out of judo because the wrestlers are killing us. And I'm a judoka. I love judo. I mean, I love it. It's super cool. But the reality is the wrestling was such an offset. It changed things so much. Even though it was with a gi on, it was still such an offset. So changing the rules was good and bad. I think it was good and bad. It was good because it gave the judo guys more of a pure judo attack approach, which I like that. It gave it more of a purity as far as judo goes. But the downside was it's not really so much because those takedowns were part of judo back in the day. So it's it's kind of a balance, right? It's kind of weird the way it went. So it was more traditional, but not really.
But not really.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird. But I think taking those out, so. putting him back in, I think, is a good call. I think the way grappling is going again, everything is kind of redirecting. Even like the no-gi grappling community is kind of changing more, almost in a catch direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and now to have judo put leg attacks back in, like singles, doubles, and whatever. Even though it's transition and all that, it's a good start, a good step in the right direction. So I think it's a good thing. Yeah, I think it's real good.
I agree. I mean, just to say a couple things, I feel like no-gi, and I think this is why this channel is so important to me, because I think catch wrestling is really the missing link to a lot of people's games, especially like amateur wrestlers that go into grappling. They stop using the wrist rod, they stop using half Nelsons, they stop using all their moves, and it's like you could be leveraging that in your grappling.
Right.
And you were saying the whole game is going toward more grappling. People are like, instead of just like, they're trying to do sweeps, they're trying to just bump and roll, now they're like getting up to single legs and they're wrestling up and they're, they want to not be on their butts anymore. They want to get a dog fight, you know what I'm saying? And I feel that is the right way to go, especially if you're in a self-defense position, you want to be on your back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And regarding the leg grabs, I think that opens up for the upper body. Like if you're bent over like this and you're trying to go for the legs, it's the perfect time to get an uchi or
Like a Tomonagi or something where guys are bent over.
Exactly.
I had a guy with a Tomonagi who shot a double on me in a judo tournament.
Oh wow.
He went in, he shot him for a double, and I grabbed his belt and kicked back, and Tomonagi was perfect. He sent him right over. So yeah, it does open up for the judo guys. It opens up different things if you're trained properly. You're trained playing with that rule set to begin with. Like we had those rules when we trained. So for me, it was natural. The guy shot, and his natural instinct was to go that way. So and different takedowns will allow different things. The guy shoots a single, your uchi's there, or switch off to different trips or whatever. They're there if you practice that way from your gym.
I agree. And here's another thing. Now that we're talking about this, I was just at a Justin Flores seminar. He was an Olympic coach, Olympic alternate. I was talking to Lauren Meese, she won World Judo Championship at 16. She was in the 2000 Olympics, I believe it was, which actually she was 17. That's crazy. And there was also a couple of judokas there that had been traveling together in the days when there were still leg grabs, and they're like, when it happened, didn't really make sense. I'm glad they're coming back. But on this subject, also in the same vein as the discussion that we were having earlier about the way things are developing for grapplers and how flow grappling has this monopoly for wrestlers. I was talking to Phil Pano. He runs at the Grappling Network. And he was discussing how basically if you're going to want to make it to the Olympics, you're going to have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get the points necessary to even qualify.
Right.
And, we're martial artists. Artists are poor.
Starving artists.
And so he was like saying basically either you got to be a rich kid that is, and he pointed to himself. I'm like, bro, you're a friggin' hard, tough athlete, but okay. He's like, you got to be a rich kid that gets like taken care of, or you got to go through some outside organizational. Hopefully they gather the money for you and send you to these things. And I see I mean, it's not as expensive with the wrestling, but I'm seeing that same only certain people are really allowed to compete and are really going to be able to make it even to the high levels. And I don't want to see that happen to BJJ. I don't want to see that happen to catch wrestling. And I want to see it stop happening to judo and wrestling. What can we do to? I think I have some answers. You know what I mean? Like you were saying, cross training, cross competition, and maybe even like mixed competition where we're taking these grappling disciplines and then forcing them to kind of go head to head. You know what I mean? But what are your thoughts on what could possibly fix these? I don't know.
I think that's exactly it. I think it's that cross pollination. We have to get guys to compete. Your style versus this style, that style versus this style, and get these inter-stylistic competitions going. But keep it at that. Don't just call it a grappling tournament. Let's call it what it is. Let's say, all right, it's going to be catch versus judo, catch versus jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu versus judo, or whatever, and put that like you mentioned before, like that blood sport kind of theme to it,
Yes.
you know, where it's style versus style. Where and it's kind of cool that way. You say, all right, well, this guy is a catch guy, this guy's a jiu-jitsu guy. They're going to go. Then the winner of that's going to face a sambo guy. The sambo guy, the winner of that's going to face a judo guy. And I, just try to make a stylistic play.
I want that.
And that'd be super cool to watch. I know a lot of people would love it. It'd be fun as hell to watch, and things like that. But it's hard to organize because again, rule sets become a problem. People don't want to participate in something like that because it's outside their comfort zone. It's not where they want to be.
I don't think it's just the rule set. Money.
And money, yeah, money.
There is like, what are you getting prestige at most of these tournaments? Prestige, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There has to be some way to gather more funds for these tournaments.
Yeah.
And I want that to happen. Still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to
It's
figure
tough. I mean, and that comes back to availability too, right? The more tournaments are out there, the more people can get out there and do stuff, and then hopefully get sponsors to jump in, and that's where they can make some money. If you get enough competitions where it gets interest, then hopefully sponsors get in and say, oh, we donate to that, and then the winners can make some money. Say, all right, well, now we get some prestige, we get some notoriety, and we can make some money doing this stuff. That would help big time too, but it's hard to get that because it's too privatized right now. Everything is so like small circle.
Agreed.
So that's another big step. It's a barrier that needs to be broken.
While we're on this subject, cross-discipline promotion, there has always been a close relationship between pro wrestling. We talked about a whole bunch of pro wrestling today. I don't know, just like out left field, we're talking about it. And catch wrestling. I mean, pro wrestling is catch wrestling, but it's predetermined.
Yeah.
But you're still getting your ass whooped. But it's predetermined, and they're using catch holds, but in a way that's when you see it from like 100 feet away, you can still understand what's happening.
Right. Yeah, we call them show holds, right?
Show holds, yeah.
Yeah, finish holds and show holds and catch. And the show holds are real submissions, just put on loosely. So from an audience perspective, it looks great, looks really cool.
The headlock we're talking about.
Yeah, we talked about the song, the headlocks earlier. It's kind of like, they're riding in and the guy's overacting. And that's, that's all part of the show. That's a show hold. But that headlock itself, if you've done right, the front chancery is a nasty face lock. You're cranking the shit out of people's faces. So when it's done as a finish hold, it becomes much more aggressive, much more of a violent hold. But the show hold version looks kind of hokey, but they're actual real holds. The guys are hitting stuff, step over toe holds, front face locks and all that stuff. They're all real techniques. They're finishing holds that are get loosened up to become show holds, so they can put on a show.
Kurt Angle put on a real toe hold all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah, all the time, yeah.
Man, you said something and it made me think of something in particular. Oh, it made me think of, I've been wanting to get bigger forearms. I'm going to get one of these maces. There's a maces at my gym that I can use, but they're just so heavy I can't use them yet. The double wrist grab, turn and get underneath, and then turning the wrist. You see that all the time in pro wrestling. I thought that, whatever. But then I saw someone do it, but they didn't do it loose, like you're saying.
You hang on to it.
You hang on to it, and you
It's very
turn it, and do it like, oh.
You got an arm spin, you start wrenching things up.
I'm like, oh, that works.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
How do we use that cross promotion of professional grappling and catch-as-can grappling? Josh Barnett's got that Barnett's blood sport. That's awesome.
Yeah,
It's Japanese style, where it's based on basically Judo, right?
Yeah.
Which is also, guys, that's catch wrestling.
Yeah, it all has the same lineage.
How do we bring that into a more combat, not entertainment?
Just again, it comes down to what you're trying to promote. If you're trying to promote more of an entertainment, then it becomes loose holds. But if you put that into an actual live shoots, you say, all right, we're doing this for real, and then you'll see a difference. It looks similar, but it'll be much faster.
Right.
You start locking things on, and people tap quick, and things start breaking fast. So it just comes down to changing it from entertainment to live shoots. I think that's the biggest thing. And having those two options is always a good fun time anyway.
Speaking of Josh Barnett's blood sport and the difference between the show and a lot of these pro wrestlers are trained by catch wrestlers.
Yeah, the legit catch wrestlers. Yeah, a lot of them are.
And the viewers don't know. The viewers don't know that viewers think maybe pro wrestling doesn't work, and if you did it like the pro wrestlers did, maybe not.
Right.
But they're doing it for show.
Yeah.
They're doing the show holds, and I think there's something there that needs to be reached because every jiu-jitsu gym, every MMA gym I walk into, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about how the cream rises to the top, or Hulk Hogan. I'm coming for you, Hulk Hogan. And I just feel like there's something there that is missing from jiu-jitsu competition, where it's just like, wrestle, raise your hand, get off the mat, no promos, no trying to make matches, no trying to, make a brand for yourself so there could be money in this, but rather it's just like in, out, there's some people in the stands, maybe the mom and the dad or the brother or the girlfriend, and then we're out of here. But there's a way to leverage each of those things forward. And I think it's really starting to happen, like you were saying, in the catch wrestling atmosphere. I've been seeing, Headhunter Higgins, right? He's been doing some catch wrestling tournaments. I'm not sure he's a competitor or he's running those.
Okay.
But I've seen them on YouTube. You've got the Wigan Snake Pit. You got Josh Barnett's ACWA. He's got the next championship. It's going to be in December 22nd in California, guys. So if you want to check out Josh Barnett's stuff.
Yeah.
We've got King of Catch Wrestling. That's Scientific Wrestling.
Yeah. TCWC, you got the Texas Catch Wrestling Coalition.
Oh, TCWC, yeah.
They run a great show, man. They got Catch Wrestling in the Cage. I like that. It's kind of cool. It's got a little different because it's got the cage.
Right, you got the cage grappling.
Yeah. So they got definitely a different vibe, and it leans. I think that's a great way because it lends itself perfectly to transitioning to MMA.
Right.
You get so used to being in that cage and running by catch rules. That's going to produce guys who go to MMA later on and they'll be like, all right, I can do this because I've been in the cage, putting my catch to the test. Now I add my striking to that. Here we are.
Right. Right. People look at Derek Lewis and he's like, oh, he can just stand up, you know what I mean? But catch wrestlers have been working literally to turtle and stand up the entire time that the sport has existed. And what Derek Lewis is doing is basically that. He's just taking the ones that really work for him, he literally just turtles and stands up. And the way it looks, maybe it looks just, oh, he's just a strong guy. He's a strong guy in it. But there's posts and it's very technical, and he's turning to a belly down position, not to give up the choke, but to turtle and get up, which is a defensive position. Yeah. That BJJ guys are like, oh, don't turtle, right. Don't do that. You know what I mean? Keep a guard, don't turtle. And I feel like it's something that is so integral to the catch wrestling style, and it comes out in every catch wrestler that goes to MMA. They just get up, and now we're standing up, and now I can try to work my takedowns again.
Right. Yeah.
But switching back to that pro wrestling, Billy Robinson. I love getting stories from you.
Yeah.
He was a pro wrestler. He went around the world. He trained with many other pro wrestlers, including Carl Gotch. He spent time in Japan. His development of his style, do you think it was affected by the professional wrestling, or was it more he affected pro wrestling?
I think he affected pro wrestling. If you look at any of the interviews of all the old pro wrestlers, anytime Billy's name was mentioned, everything changes. Like the respect levels are through the roof. Everybody was like, man, that dude, he was the real deal. He was the best. He was this and that. And like they can't, like some of the best pro wrestlers in the world can't give him high enough praises. They're just, man, he was amazing. It's super cool to hear that. So I think he impacted pro wrestling more than vice versa. It's kind of interesting.
Even the style of wrestling in Japan
completely
changed after him.
Yeah, for sure. He had such an impact on it. And with that, it's kind of talking about that respect level. I trained at Miyato's gym in Tokyo. Wow. And he's that guy's amazing, man. Miyato-san is incredible, man. It's super, super technical. I mean,
is he the one running the Snake Pit in Japan?
Yeah, he is in Tokyo, yeah.
Oh, okay, wow.
Then there's also Riley's gym in Kyoto.
Yeah, Riley's gym.
Yeah, but he's in Tokyo. And his gym, to this day, he has, you want to talk about the ultimate respect, man. So Billy used to sit in his chair on the end of the mat, right? And that was his thing. He'd sit in the chair and he'd yell at you from the chair, and if you had to get up, you were in trouble. He'd come over and hit you with his cane and yell at you. But to this day, you go to Miyato-san's gym, and there's a chair. Billy's chair is still there, and they have a poster of Billy in that chair. When I walked in that gym and I saw that chair sitting on the end of the mat, man, I'm talking about getting goosebumps, man. I was just thinking about it. I was like, man, the respect level is so high. It's so amazing. They got all these amazing posters and pictures and stuff all over the walls of Billy and Sakuraba and Carl Gotch and all these amazing legends. But to have that chair sitting, Billy's chair is still sitting in that same spot, and he's still sitting in that chair in the poster, and they pay respects to him all the time. And man, to me, that just like super, super, super cool. And to be able to be in that gym and train with those guys and see that and be part of it is amazing. Super cool. But his level, the respect for him it's second to none. Really cool. He was, I'll tell you a funny story. Yes. I know you love the stories, right? So
yes.
This is a great story. So Billy also had a funny side. He had a very good sense of humor, which you didn't know. If you watched only videos of him, you'd never know how funny he is because he's so serious, so mean. You know, every time he spoke, he was yelling at you or, you know, just giving you shit over something. And but you know, after the fact, we'd always go out to the restaurants or a bar or something, go get some beers and tell some stories. And I'd sit there like a little kid, man. He'd be telling stories. I'm sitting there like a little kid, like listening, and he'd have always some funny stuff. And he loved to mess with the waitresses. He'd always mess with them. Like the girl would come over and give you the check, and he'd, oh darling, there's something wrong with this check. She, what's the matter? Your phone number's not on it. You know, stuff like that was always funny. But so we were at a restaurant one day, having some beers, having some food, and after training. And there's a few of us there having a good time, and Billy's been flirting with this waitress and messing with her and having a good time. And he excuses himself, he's gonna go to the restroom. So he goes to the bathroom, and he's gone kind of a long time. We're like, oh, that's kind of weird, you know, but whatever, not paying no mind to it. And he comes walking back out of the bathroom, and I see everybody's face drop, and I look back, and he's coming up behind me. I got a photo of it. I have to send you the photo. It's funny as shit. I turn back, and he's coming up behind from where the restrooms are, and he has toilet paper wrapped all around his head. He's got his forearm wrapped in a fake sling made, and he comes like staggering out of the bathroom. He goes, that waitress got a hold of me. It was the funniest thing. Like, you'd never expect that out of Billy Robinson because, you know, he's such a serious, strong, tough guy. But he was like comical, man. He made it look like the waitress kicked the shit out of him in the bathroom. And it was fun. Like, he would do stuff like that. Like, you'd never guess it. It was awesome. I loved stuff like that. It was so funny. Like, just funny side of his personality. Very rare to see.
Wow. What's a story that Billy Robinson's telling at those tables? What is he? Okay, that's going even farther back, right? So what other kind of stories is he sharing at the tables?
Man, everything from old wrestling matches, which is always amazing to hear. You know, we talk about different wrestling. We talk about when he got his fingers broken in a match, and that's why we put our fingers like this. So we tell those stories and tell a history of different wrestling styles, and you know, Greco-Roman's not Greco-Roman. He got all that stuff.
What is it? French?
Yeah, I mean, no, it's like Nordic. It comes from like upper body Vikings and stuff, and that's what his explanation of it was. A lot of it came from, you know, the Norse people or the Europeans would be upper body strong, so they wrestle upper body because they have to carry a shield and a sword and fight in battle and all that stuff. And so a lot of that stuff came from their style, and you know, it gets deeper into the history with that. But so that was kind of neat stuff, stories like that. Old wrestling matches were always fun to hear about. You know, different comical stories, like things like, you know, with the raps and all that stuff. He'd tell us that kind of stuff, and we go all over the board. But it was always talking about the old days of him wrestling and who he wrestled, where he wrestled, some of his pro wrestling stories. And so that was always cool to hear that kind of stuff, you know, talking about, you know, this wrestler or that wrestler, and oh, I wrestled this guy and that guy, and like, my God, these are like, you know, legends. Like, these guys I grew up watching on TV. You know, he's talking about how he beat the shit out of these guys and he can kill every one of them at any given time, you know?
That's why you stopped working in the West, right? You beat somebody up and they're like, you can't work.
Yeah, that's it.
So who, on that subject, who is the guy that Billy Robinson was like, he was giving respect to him, you know, maybe not like, oh, this guy's my teacher, but maybe as an opponent or as a grappler, as a wrestler, or a, you know, an athlete. Who was the guy that Billy Robinson was like, that guy?
I don't think he ever really said like how much he looked up to anybody else. I hate to say it, but you know, he was that guy. He was the guy. You know, he was the guy. So like, you know, I've heard him talk good about certain wrestlers, but you know, guys being legit, but never really like looked up to something. Not that I know of anyway. There might have been people he looked up to, but he never mentioned us like, oh, like that was the guy. Like, you know, it was always like, I wrestled the Iron Sheik, but I can kick the shit out of the Iron Sheik. You know, and I was like, all right, well, that's pretty cool. And you know, this guy couldn't carry my wrestling shoes or whatever. You know, like so that was usually the stories kind of leading in that direction of him kind of beating people up. So it was pretty awesome to hear. And you know, the more he drank, the funnier the stories got. But yeah, it was awesome to hear all those kind of things. He was an amazing storyteller, like just, you know, because everything was so like crazy. Like he was such a rock star, and he'd go out and just wrestle anybody in the world and beat them, and have a story about it. Like, yeah, well, this guy was a really good wrestler in India, so I went up to India and wrestled him. That's insane. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, he was a great wrestler in China, so I took a flight. Like,
dang, he did that?
He did that. Yeah, he would travel. He'd go travel, find the best wrestlers, and go fight them.
That's freaking amazing. And that just goes to show you how like many different styles of wrestling all over the world. Every culture has it.
Yeah.
And I think they're just, they need some catch in their life. They would know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, I do need to go learn BJJ. Right. I mean, you should. but catch wrestling's what you're looking for.
That's right. It's easier to learn the whole package of all the submissions and then take them out per rule set than learn limited rule sets and then try to apply later too.
Oh yeah, you're not allowed to reap.
Yeah,
You're not allowed to reap.
Yeah.
No neck cranks.
Yeah, I'd rather learn all the reaping and neck cranks now, and if I do a tournament, I can easily not do that. But if I don't know how to do that stuff and I need it, then I'm fucked. So,
And there's tons of chokes where I'm like, my neck's being cranked while I'm doing this. So you pull down the head in a triangle.
Yeah.
I'm feeling the neck crank.
Neck crank's going in there, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But it's a triangle.
Yeah.
And jiu-jitsu is triangle. Let me see. Let's get a couple more questions here. I don't want to keep you. I know
Sure.
you haven't eaten. We haven't eaten. You know what I mean?
It's been a long day.
When you trained with Billy Robinson, he's like, Sakuraba, that's my boy. Were you ever had a chance to train with him or hear any stories from Billy Robinson about him?
About Sakuraba, I've heard stories about it. I never got to train with him. I wish I could. I'd love to have trained with Sak. He's amazing. He's been one of my favorites from as far as I can remember seeing him.
Yeah.
This guy's just amazing.
The Beater Belfort fight versus Sakuraba is the whole reason I started training.
There you go. Yeah, it's amazing. I think the guy was amazing, a living legend. It's incredible. Yeah, he's always been my favorites. But Billy would talk about him in super high regards, rightfully so.
Right.
But yeah, unfortunately, I never got to train with him. But yeah, anytime Billy would mention Sakuraba, he would call him my boy. My boy Sakuraba was in the match, and he beat all the Gracies. And he'd get all excited.
It's such a good impression. It's such a good impression.
It was great. But yeah, it was so great. You see his eyes light up too when he talk about it. He gets so proud and excited, And the guy trained thousands of people, over the years, and all amazing wrestlers. But there's something special about Sakuraba, and Billy really loved him, and it was super cool to see that little spark when he talked about it, that excitement.
Oh man! So in essence, just to highlight, guys, John, the Catch Cowboy Potenza learned from the same guy that taught Sakuraba. Yeah. So I'm not the only Sakuraba fan on this channel.
That's right. There you go. That's right. Yeah.
Let's see here, and I just wanted to talk a little bit more about that thing I was saying earlier about the rodeo and some rough and tumble. I mean, because rough and tumble kind of led to catch wrestling, or right vice versa, a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I know, was it Teddy Roosevelt that was a rough and tumble?
Rough and tumble, yeah.
But he was also a wrestler.
Yep.
There it has been so last year and this year, that we're actually planning it right now. There is this big PBR national rodeo it's 9 days long in Las Vegas.
That's awesome.
And there's every time that we've been there, which is this time and last time, there is a UFC bout, and there seems to be some intermingling of those crowds. I really feel like something like that could really take off because America.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's more American than bull riding and fighting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It goes hand in hand. You can't be a cowboy and not know how to fight.
Right,
It's all part of it. You're rough and tumble. It's by nature. That's what it is. So yeah, it would be really cool it's cool to see that intermingling already. Like you're talking about Cerrone ride Twisted Steel, and some of the UFC fighters are getting kind of behind this whole bull riding thing. And
it's a tough guy thing to ride a bull.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be a certain kind of crazy and a certain kind of tough. Yes. I ride bulls, and it's fucking ridiculous. You got to be stupid, a little bit crazy, but it's fun. But like I tell people ask me, well, why do you do that? And it's the closest you can get as an adrenaline rush to fighting. Like when you get on a bull, it's an 8-second ride at best. That's all you get, 8 seconds. That 8 seconds, you feel like you're on that thing for a week. It's incredible. You get locked in, and that bull comes. As soon as that chute opens, that clock starts, and usually you're gone in about 3 seconds. 2 to 3 seconds, you're off. The bulls are fast and nasty. They whip quick. And they're 12 to 1,500 pounds at the smaller side, and they get bigger from that, right?
Twisted Steel's like almost 3,000.
Yeah, it's almost 3,000 pounds. It's insane how big. So when you get dumped in the well, and if you get thrown forward, and the bull turns around and steps on you,
that's it.
Wherever he steps on you is breaking. That's going to break, And then they come. A lot of them, like Twisted Steel and some of the really mean ones, they come after and they try to stick a horn in you and try to dump you. Man, it's rough. So you have to be a special kind of tough to do bull riding, which is the same transitions to same kind of tough you need to be a catch wrestler or an MMA fighter. So that cross pollination is going to happen, I think, at some point.
I think so.
It's going to start making sense, and cowboys wrestle for fun. That's
they really do.
That's the fun, the relaxing fun time is going to fight with your buddies. That's what we do. So it really does. It kind of makes sense, and hopefully at some point it'll really start to intertwine and come into something real.
Guys, if you think that this is an interesting concept, if you would go, if you would support, if this is something you like, comment below, let us know. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll get some momentum behind this.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Final thoughts? Anything that you want to talk about? We didn't touch on anything that you're wanting to push. Anything that's happening?
I think the biggest thing, and I've been talking about this on a couple different podcasts lately, is the unity part of catch wrestling, and we really need it. I mean, like I talked about earlier, there's a lot of infighting. There's always bickering. There's always some stuff, and I get it.
What's the cause? Like, what are we fighting about?
Mostly rule sets.
Rule sets
and egos. Those are the two things. Egos and rule sets are the two things. Some guys want to just keep. I'm the catch guy. I'm the guy. Who cares, man? It doesn't matter if your organization is doing this and their organization is doing that. It doesn't matter as long as you're doing catch, right? If we're all doing catch, support it, push it. Support each other's seminars, support each other's tournaments, support each other's events. Try to get the word out for catch wrestling as a whole, rather than trying to monopolize it all and just like, oh, this is my network, and we don't want you guys to be part of it, whatever, because your rules are different or whatever, So I think that's a big thing is getting. I'm not saying everybody's got to be on the same page and all under the same umbrella or whatever. I'm just saying that if you support each other and we kind of push catch wrestling as a sport, as a style, as a whole, that's what's going to grow it. And then you stick to your rule set, stick to your organization, your thing, whatever. That's fine. But if we all push catch wrestling, it grows much faster. If we don't, it's going to fall apart and fragment, and there'll be nothing left but a couple of small little pockets. And that's kind of what happened to it the first time around.
Right.
Then there was only just a couple of guys teaching pure catch.
Right.
And everything else kind of fell apart, and then went to pro wrestling, and that was it. So we got a good revival going right now. Let's keep the momentum going. But the only way it's going to happen is if people work together and support each other. I think that's the biggest thing.
I think this resurgence really started for me back in 2018 when they had the Billy Robinson Classic,
Yeah.
the heavyweight new lineal title, and CSW, Randy Couture, Snake Pit, everybody was pretty much involved in the scientific wrestling, was involved in co-promoting and making this happen. I feel like that really needs to happen again.
It does.
And the various organizations have gotten even bigger. You know what I mean? There's more competitors.
Yeah.
And I think that, the time to really start, as you said, unite is now. It's always been now.
Always, yeah. I mean, there's no better time than the present, right? So
Amen.
I think that's the key. I think that's it. If we push together, we work together, that's support, get you guys to go out and compete in these things, and that's all we need. I mean, that's going to be the big influx to make the directional change that we need for catch as a whole.
Okay. Anything other plugs? Anything else?
Other than that, I mean,
Oldschoolgrappling.com. Check it out.
That's right.
And Average Joe's MMA in Prescott, Arizona.
My gym, yep. And if you can follow us on YouTube and Instagram and social media, Old School Grappling Catch Wrestling Association. We're always out doing seminars. I'm always out doing seminars somewhere, traveling around a bunch. And if you can make it out to any of my seminars, is great. Or like I said, any seminars. If you can't make it to mine, make it to somebody else's. Get out there, learn catch wrestling, learn the style, pursue your grappling into a higher level, and that's what's going to make you an all-around better fighter.
And if you want John Potenza at your school, contact him on social media, and he can come do a seminar there at your home gym.
Have catch, will travel.
Catch will travel. Once again, I want to thank NOGI MMA, Coach Josh, for letting us do this interview. I'd like to thank the Catch Cowboy, John Potenza,
Yes, sir.
For letting me follow up on this interview. And once again, everybody, I'd like to thank you guys for watching this all the way through, supporting, comment, subscribe, and as I always say, stay up, stay vigilant, stay locked and loaded, stay brutal. Shalom, shalom. Peace in.